Okay, so my previous two podcasts actually had a part of the podcast where I spoke about fascinating wildlife sightings that I've had in the past. Like when I saw a tiger trying to hunt an Indian Gaur, or when I saw a rufous woodpecker eating ants, and a lot of different wildlife sightings. And today's video as well, today's podcast, I'm gonna be telling you guys three wildlife sightings that I've had in the past that I found super fascinating. So one of them is actually when I'd gone for a safari in Pench and I'd seen the Indian wild dog, the Dhole, and they're one of the most fierce carnivores in the jungle. They are actually known to start eating their prey before the prey has even died, and they eat really large ungulates like sambar deer, chital deer. So it's super fascinating. And I actually was on a safari in Pench, and it was the afternoon, and we basically saw a couple of dholes, and there was a really tiny jackal up ahead, and this jackal actually saw the dhole running towards that direction. The jackal saw the dhole and literally turned right back and started running away as fast as it could in the other direction. The second fascinating sighting, one of the most fascinating sightings I've ever seen, was actually when I'd gone for a trail a couple of months ago. And this was something super unexpected that I had never seen before. So I've seen a lot of fungoid frogs in the past, and fungoid frogs are small frogs, and bullfrogs are really huge frogs compared to them. They're like they're much bigger in size. And when I actually went for this trail, I saw a pond that had a really huge bullfrog that was swimming on the surface, and this tiny fungoid frog, I don't know why, has seen that bullfrog. There was so much space in the entire pond, but it has swam towards the bullfrog, jumped on the bullfrog, and started kicking the water. And the bullfrog eventually, after a few seconds, probably did not like that and submerged itself back into the water. And the third most fascinating sighting that I saw was the oriental dwarf kingfisher that I saw with a fish in its mouth near a pond a few years ago, and that was one of the most fascinating sightings I've ever seen. I've only seen the oriental dwarf kingfisher twice, and that was one of the times that I saw it, and it was super fascinating because I was literally waiting near the pond to see if I could see any kingfishers, and I thought I would see a common blue kingfisher or a white-throated kingfisher, but I saw a really beautiful oriental dwarf kingfisher, and it had a fish in its mouth and was perched on a tiny branch near the pond, and they're one of the most beautiful birds ever. They literally are such they have such bright colors, and they're one of the most vividly colored birds ever, and that was definitely one of my favorite sightings that I've ever seen of a bird. Okay, so I know I already mentioned three wildlife sightings, but I'm actually going to mention a fourth one as well. During a safari in Pinch a couple of years ago, I actually saw a really beautiful tawny eagle, and tawny eagles are one of the largest eagle species in the world. And what was really fascinating was that a few dholes, a group of dholes, had actually killed a chital deer. A few vultures actually came to scavenge on it as well, but a tawny eagle I saw in the safari actually flew near the vultures, took a piece of the carcass, and actually flew away with it. And they're really huge birds, you guys. It was one of the biggest birds I've ever seen, and I also saw a few vultures there as well, but I saw the tawny eagle fly off with a piece of meat away from the jackals and vultures, and that was one of the most fascinating moments I've ever seen. So definitely, the tawny eagle during the safari was one of the most fascinating sightings I've ever seen. And yeah, I that was it for the wildlife sightings. And in Painch, what else did I see? I saw so many things in Painch, you guys. I can do like a few episodes where I just talk about Painch. I literally love Painch, and I love going for safaris over there. I have seen so many different animals over there. As I mentioned in my previous podcast, I actually saw Indian Gaurs there for the first time. I saw Chital there for the first time. I saw Sambar deer there for the first time. I went for the first time there when I was really young, and I have been going there ever since so many times. So it's literally one of the most fascinating places in the world. And talking about a couple of fascinating sightings in Painch, actually around the hotel that I was staying at a couple of years ago, one day I went for bird watching around the hotel property as well. And that day was one of the most amazing days, you guys. Like, I saw so many birds just by walking around the property with the naturalist. It was about a 1.5 hour walk, but I still remember when we started. The first bird that I saw was a really beautiful owl, and I don't remember, it was a couple of years ago, but I'm gonna put the picture over here. I think it was a scops owl that I saw, and it was in the hollow of a tree. After that, during the trail, we literally saw a peacock, and that was super fascinating because this was right near the property, and because the jungles are so close by, peacocks are often seen out in the wild like that, and it was one of the most beautiful peacocks. And a few minutes later, we saw a lot of green bee eaters, And green beetles are one of the most beautiful birds. They actually love having dust baths as well. Since they live in such hot environments, they love having dust baths to cool themselves. They basically find a puddle of sand or mud, and they just basically rub their feathers on that to have a dust bath. And I also saw white-throated kingfisher. I saw a couple of herons. I saw the Indian pond heron, egrets as well. I saw a really, really beautiful. I don't remember what the name was. Yeah, a scaly, breasted munya. I saw a couple of water hens. It was one of the most beautiful bird watching days ever because I got to see so many different birds. And I also saw a snake that day, you guys. We also saw a really, really beautiful Indian rat snake as well that day. And that was one of the most fascinating sightings. And what else? During bird watching, we saw a lot of birds, you guys, a lot of birds. And apart from the birds as well, we saw a few mammals as well. We saw squirrels. When we were walking back, we also saw a tiny hare crossing the path, so that was really fascinating. And overall, it was just amazing to go for a bird watching walk in the evening, so close to the property, and still see so many birds. And that was definitely one of the most fascinating bird watching trails that I've ever been for. And another bird watching trail that I had really found fascinating was when I had gone for bird watching in Shillem, and that was definitely one of the most fascinating bird watching walks ever because I saw a lot of jungle fowl that day. A lot of jungle fowl. They're one of the most striking, beautiful birds ever. I also saw a lot of spur fowl. A lot of spur fowl. They're tiny birds. They look like chickens and they live in the jungle. And they're the primary prey of small wild cats in the jungles, like jungle cats. So during that bird watching trail, I saw a couple of jungle fowl in Shillem. I saw a couple of spur fowl. I saw a lot of jungle babblers, and that's why I actually got to know that jungle babblers make so much noise. I had seen jungle babblers a lot of times before during safaris, but when I had gone for those trails in Shillem a few years ago, that was the first time I saw so many babblers, you guys. They were literally everywhere. And I also saw a couple of rain quails. They're one of the most beautiful birds ever, and they're literally super beautiful, you guys. And I also saw white-throated kingfisher. I saw these really tiny birds that I don't know what they are. I saw a really beautiful leaf bird, and during that morning walk as well, I was when I saw the Atlas moth, as I mentioned in the previous podcast, the largest moth species that I saw, and it was super fascinating. I also used to see a lot of crabs during these trails in Shillem. And these crabs, not only did I see the yellow crabs, I also saw red crabs. I also saw a lot of frogs and a lot of snails in that jungle. And I also saw a lot of blackwing kites there. I love blackwing kites. They're one of the most beautiful bird species ever. I also saw a lot of red whiskered bulbuls and red vented bulbuls. And a lot of times I have also seen in Shillem mynas and oriental magpie robins and green bee eaters actually with a prey in its mouth. When whether it's a cockroach or a dragonfly, they'll be perched on like a branch on a tree or a wire, and they're basically eating the dragonfly, or they have like a bee in their mouth, and they're one of the most fascinating birds ever. And I literally love going for the bird watching trails in Shillem. And yeah, I think that's it for today's podcast. And I really hope you guys liked watching today's podcast. I'm gonna be uploading the next podcast next Wednesday as well. I upload a new podcast each Wednesday. And I hope you guys like this podcast, and hit the like button below, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch a new podcast every Wednesday. And hit the like button below, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch new podcasts every week from me. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Bye, guys.